for sticking around. So the thing that has been going on concurrently with Trump just deciding to stop running a campaign and just air a bunch of grievances for a week is the WikiLeaks dump all these John Podesta emails, and he asked why they haven't had much more of an impact. From my perspective, it's because there's not a whole lot there. It sounds like a campaign the way that campaigns are sort of run. So, but there have been a couple of things that have caught people's attention. One, this business with the quid pro quo between state and FBI, except that the FBI comes out and says the guy that was named or whose name was redacted actually was the one that approached the State Department employee and said, "Hey, look, we need authorization for more agents in overseas or whatever," and it was more infighting. So it's all this internal bureaucratic infighting that has been revealed here that does not make anybody feel very good about government, but it doesn't have. But it's not sticking to Hillary in the way that. And I'm sure people wanted to. Having
worked in the government and seen a lot of that stuff firsthand. There is a lot of competition between the bureaucracies.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong. I'm looking for every opportunity to denigrate Hillary because, it makes Blake turn his blood pressure go up and sometimes he faints. But in this particular case, I got to agree with Blake.
Just don't have the stamina.
No, you don't. Because when it comes to Hillary, man, you're a giant fanboy. So I see, there's a quid pro quo that goes on everywhere. All over the nation. There's a competition between the Energy Department and the FDA. There's a competition between the FDA and the CDC. I mean, it's just the way it is over there.
Well, and the accusation, and that's a specific one, the accusation of corruption, where you're saying, you lower the classification, because that was the thing. The State Department wanted him to, I think, lower the classification on the Benghazi email so that they could take it and just keep it at the State Department or whatever, as opposed to having it kept at the FBI under lock and key. So it would be moved from the State Department under lock and key to the FBI under lock and key, and in exchange for that, we'll give you more guys out in the field, something that probably would be good for them. I don't see that as being a corrupt thing.
No, I don't. But what I do see being a corrupt thing is destroying the FBI agreeing, hey, listen, we need to destroy these servers. We're going to destroy these hard drives. We're going to erase these emails. We're going to try to provide cover for you. Those are the things that are also in these dumps. And I'm sitting here thinking, if Trump would just say, listen, it didn't happen, we need to move on, and those might get some traction. The other thing is there's a videotape out there, and of course you only see the edited stuff, and I hate that.
James O'Keefe, once again.
And I hate the edited stuff because I want to know what that person said. That's why the entirety of the tape of our debate on last Friday, that's available to everybody. The entire thing. You can take what you want from it, right? But here it is edited, and Hillary seems to be saying, listen, no one has the right to bear arms. Now, I know that's a left-wing position. I can believe she said it. And if Trump would simply get himself out of the way, that would gain traction as well. I was talking, remember Mike, the gun shop owner? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm talking to Mike the other day. And he's like, I don't understand why people aren't storming in here getting the guns, because she's probably going to get elected. And her first thing is she's going to start taking our rights away through executive order, which is, we've talked about the power of the executive order before.
Yeah.
And the problem is you do an executive order, the Congress, those weak-willed people, are supposed to then go defend our Second Amendment rights. And then that process will take a minimum of 2 years and maybe 4 years before it gets to the Supreme Court. And in the meantime, it's the law of the land. Everybody gets used to it. Now you've lost your rights.
Yeah, except that an executive order can't take guns away. It can't.
No, but it can regulate them so they're so expensive you can't have them.
No, it can't.
Oh, sure it can.
No,
you
it
can
can't.
Tax.
How?
You can tax. You can do anything with an executive order.
The executive order can't put taxes on stuff. Hold on a second. No, the executive order can't put taxes on stuff. An executive order related to guns would have to do with adding more resources to the ATF, maybe, but it can't regulate gun shows. It can't go into stores and tell you to sell less guns. And also, if an executive order from President Hillary Clinton comes out on day one of her administration and says, round up all of the handguns, there will be a lawsuit, and that executive order will be ruled unconstitutional because it didn't have prior approval of Congress. If you have an executive order only withstands scrutiny at the highest level if Congress has already ruled on the issue, and there is no legislation about guns being passed through any Congress as long as Republicans are in control of one of the houses. It's just never going to happen. So the issue about any sort of aside from the fact that she's come out and said that she supports the Second Amendment, but here's the other thing that I want to talk about with respect, because the Second Amendment issue, you and I are never going to agree about what reality is in this one. But just know, folks, executive orders.
My reality is true.
Executive orders cannot take away guns. They just can't. That's not how it works. So Hillary, there was a bunch of emails that came out about the Hillary's position on trade, and they've taken this phrase "open borders," where she's talking about, I want to see a hemispheric open market with open borders. She's talking about trade borders, promoting free trade in this Goldman Sachs email, talking about the Western Hemisphere being completely free trade, how great that would be, and getting flack from the Republicans. And what I found interesting about that, not that she would say it, because the Clintons have been pro free trade forever. And she's had to change that because of a challenge from Bernie Sanders.
Sure.
Right? What I find amazing about that is how many Republicans are piling on about how horrible an idea that would be. And you're in probably 4 or 5 years, the Democratic Party, if Hillary Clinton gets elected and leads the Democratic Party for this next 4 years in administration, is going to become the free trade party, and all of the protectionist, tariff-loving folks are going to move over to the Republicans. And that is such a crazy shift to me that I can't understand it. Because especially if you live in Iowa or any agricultural state, free trade has made the state of Iowa so much money over the last 25, 30 years that it's ridiculous. We sold $17 billion. Iowa companies sold $17 billion of agricultural products overseas in 2013. It's been a benefit.
It's been a benefit overall. However, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and that's what people focus on.
I know, but
that's part of the reason why the jobs aren't coming back.
But here's the issue. Here's the issue with that. So the parties can't get together. The parties can't get together about how to fix that problem, and that's a legitimate problem. I grant that. But overall, Republicans won the argument. The Republican Party and the conservatives won the argument that open markets, free trade floats all boats overall. They won that argument. And the Democrats came along and said, you know what? You're right. Look at the boom in the 90s was a large part to do with that. The boom that Iowa's experienced in corn prices in the early part of the 2000s was a large deal because we opened up these markets to sell into foreign countries.
So how come we don't have Democrats getting up there and saying, geez, Republicans were right?
No, that's the thing. They did by enacting those policies, and you've seen that with Obama in supporting the TPP. But Republicans, and this is politics. I'm not bagging Republicans just to bag Republicans on this, because the Democrats have been doing it too. You have the Republicans winning this argument, and rather than just accepting the fact that Democrats are okay with this now, apparently, they go completely the other way and talk about trade protectionism and tariffs, two hallmarks of a socialist economic policy that I can't wrap my head around it.
Now, I hate to say that Blake is right, but honest to goodness, I do believe he's got a very good point. We do a lot of this kind of stuff over here on the Republican Party where we're very inconsistent. That's part of the reason why I think a lot of people don't trust the Republican Party. Because if you're looking at the polls and you're looking at the studies, what you see is Congress is in the toilet at record lows. So are the Republicans. So are the Democrats. But the Republicans are worse off. So, on that note, what are we going to talk about when we come back? Going to talk anything foreign policy or what?
We could, yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll talk about something we're not quite sure yet. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back right after this break. We couldn't do it